All good.
I don't know if you're about to introduce me.
All right. So, as I mentioned, we're lucky to have Holly here today, who's going to talk a little bit about her journey and bring into it some of the other people that you know with cystic fibrosis as well.
No, I didn't do that.
Okay, no, well, I'm sure you've got lots of experience. So obviously cross-infection issues, but Holly obviously has connections with other people in the community as well. So
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay, so I'm Holly. This is my daughter River, who didn't intend to be here, but we've actually been at an appointment at the hospital, like a family meeting, so she's here, much to her. She may answer a question if you directed one at her, but I'm not sure. Yeah, as Catherine said, I'm a little bit nervous, but just push on. I met the physios on Tuesday when I came in. It was a demo for Jamie, so that was a good entree into the world of what you guys are doing here today. So I'm just going to speak a little bit, about my life and a bit about my thinking around CF, and then just a couple of things that I see is quite important from a patient perspective that as healthcare workers it might be good to know. And I'm actually very much speaking from my perspective. Of course, it's not the CF perspective, it's only, it's me, what I'm saying, what I've experienced. I've got my own little things that really bug me. I'm a big hand washing fan, so I'll bang on about that for a good 2 minutes. And then I'd like to open it up to questions and answers. You can really actually ask me anything you want. If I don't feel comfortable, I just say I don't feel comfortable. I'm not fussed. I'd much rather you ask. I see this as a very important forum and quite a privilege to be able to speak to you guys. Okay, and I ran out of time, didn't do my physio this morning, so I'm coughing quite a bit as well, so that's good experience for you. Okay, and I'll read quite a bit because that helps me be less nervous. Okay, so generally I'd say I've actually been really quite fortunate with my CF and my health. From what I've seen, we all seem to exist on quite a broad spectrum of CF, like the most fortunate to the least fortunate, with a lot of it where you're placed being about luck and stuff being beyond your control. And I'd say generally I've actually been really quite lucky. My CF was very well controlled during my childhood. I never went to hospital. First time I went to hospital I was in Melbourne with a girlfriend when I was 18, and I had hemoptysis while I was really quite under the influence, and it was actually a very scary, shocking experience, and didn't know what, I thought I was dying. I got taken to hospital in Melbourne where I went for a few days and got treatment and learned a bit about, what hospital was going to be like from then on. And from then on I probably went to hospital for IV ABs maybe twice a year, most of my life from when I was 18, sometimes 3 times a year, up until last year where my health really has deteriorated quite a bit, and I was in like 6 times last year, which was a big change for me. So, as I said, pretty relatively controlled throughout my young life, never went into PMH. I finished high school. I went and did a Bachelor of Arts degree, which was great, and I worked in theatre. I did that for quite a long time, but that became kind of problematic with my health because I'd have to commit to like a 1-month run of a play or something, and if I was sick I couldn't do it, and I'd end up letting a lot of people down. It was really hard. So I moved into circus, which was a lot more flexible. I couldn't do the part, someone else could do the part, and I ended up teaching and working in community arts for about 10 years, with River as my little sidekick for a lot of it. She was great. I did a lot of balancing, acrobatic works, and she was light and I could always pick her up, and probably made me look a lot better than I actually was. So River and I actually travelled around a lot. We worked in prisons, Aboriginal communities, schools, teaching all sorts of circus and stuff. To some extent, my disease was kind of invisible. Certainly in some of the communities I worked on, it was very invisible because everyone coughed like me, and it was quite strange what I could actually cover. And while that provided me with a lot of opportunities to get away from discrimination and to achieve a lot of my goals, it also, has negative effects because you're actually working very hard to keep your illness secret. You're trying to overcompensate a lot of the time for the illness. I think I've given up that, trying to overcompensate. I definitely given it up. You know, there's a lot of time when you're trying to give more than everyone else when you actually have got less, and that's exhausting, and you can't do that forever. Yeah, so there was a point when I realised that that wasn't that good either. It wasn't good for Riv's education to be moving a lot, and it wasn't good for my health. It wasn't so easy anymore to go to hospital, to lose all my skills and fitness with circus and have to try again. So I went and reschooled, and I went and did a social work degree, which was amazing. And I worked in that for the last 4 years, but then last year I moved to Melbourne, and my health deteriorated a lot, so I've actually stopped working at the moment. So in a way, that's my newest challenge, one of my newest challenges. It's not only living with less well, but also how to find that, replace that identity that comes with work and that sense of what to do and the sense you're contributing. Things like this is actually quite amazing for me. It gives me that sense of doing something. I think that's a big thing to struggle with. For me, never really being able to achieve your capacity, having the education and the skills to do a lot, but your body not to be able to keep up. That's hard. There's no doubt about that. I chose to have River pretty young. I had River when I was 22. So my decision was to have her young so that I could have as much of my life with her as possible. I had a really well pregnancy. I chose to have a non-medicalised birth. I had a home birth, which I don't think I'd ever. Which all the doctors were like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then breastfed for a long time, even though people back then, there was concerns about excess salt in milk, and I had to get all that sorted. But that all went really quite well. I would have liked to have more children, but decided that one was enough, and I was lucky to just chill. I've always been pretty dedicated to my health. Even in my younger partying years, I was pretty big with airway clearance and exercise and adherence to, my doctor's regimes. I've always been pretty big on that. But it's a lot of work. Like that maintaining of a normal life is huge. There's just so much time and money and planning that goes into living with CF. The treatment burden is hours every day. The moment I have 7 nebs a day, I'll have 2 bronchodilator nebs, hypertonic saline to break down mucus nebs, antibiotic nebs, enzyme nebs, 2 regimes of airway clearance a day. If I'm unwell, I'll increase that to 3 times a day. I'll try to go to the gym at least once a day and do sort of like a cardiovascular or a weights workout. I'll try and then do yoga 3 times a week. Certainly all the coughing and musculoskeletal complications make me very sore and stiff, so that's quite important. So it's massive. The amount of food I have to eat is huge. Just the time burden, it's really kind of hard to grasp how big it is. The amount of rest you have to do. Even just little things like filling prescriptions, washing nebs, going to the doctors. It's big. Now I can't even work out how I used to work. Yeah, I guess you just fit things in when you have to. I'd say, although my life has not really been driven by CF and a lot of my choices, it certainly underpinned everything, all my choices that I've really made. It certainly puts up a lot of barriers in work, relationships, finance, travel, having families. There is a lot of barriers to overcome, and I don't really buy into that belief that illness has a silver lining and it's good to overcome adversities. I actually think it's actually very brutal and wears you and your family down and is ongoing, and I don't kind of see it as that, that silver lining in the cloud. Maybe I will one day, but I don't at the moment. An example of stuff about planning and preparation is, okay, so if I wanted to ride to work, I'd have to be thinking about taking an extra shirt with me because I'd end up coughing phlegm as I rode to work, probably all over my shirt. Stuff like that. If I want to go camping with friends for the weekend, I'm thinking about, am I going with smokers? Is there going to be a bushfire? I mean, a campfire, both things that are going to cause me a lot of problem. I've got to be thinking of electricity, access to nebs, access to refrigeration for my medication. Like, it's just, the planning is unbelievable, and that's not something I'm really fond of. So that's a bit of a struggle. I think one of the most profound things I'd say about CF is the constancy and the vigilancy that you need to apply. It's been different throughout my life cycle and my wellness, but certainly at the moment, and certainly for a lot of people, if you forget to take your enzymes out with you for one day, you're going to, have a lot of stomach pain, a lot of diarrhea if you don't take your enzymes when you eat. So, if I miss a day of airway clearance because I'm busy or tired, my body will wake me up in the middle of the night and I'll be coughing and coughing. Like, I can't miss anything. So no matter what's going on, if you're getting a divorce or a big day at work or your kid's sick, you have to keep pushing on. And I'd say that's kind of the biggest thing to struggle with, that 7 days a week motivation. It's really hard, absolutely really hard. It's tough. And I'd also say one of the biggest emotional struggles is the constant kind of grief and loss. Even though people have relatively long periods of stable health, inevitably you're still losing stuff a lot of the time. More organs are getting impaired, you're losing dreams, money, independence. Everyone's slowly marching towards a transplant if they're lucky. So it's that, and there's so much of these losses to get your head around. I don't even know, well, I certainly don't know if I get my head around it all the time, because there's stuff going on. And even if it's not a loss that you're experiencing right at that moment, it's an impending loss, you know what's coming. Like, I'll come into the hospital and someone will, like, almost tick boxing, and have you got this, have you got that, have you got diabetes? And I'll say no, and the answer will be, oh, well, not yet. There's always this impending, it's coming, and it's a lot to deal with. But then perhaps in a way that marking it early means when it comes you're a little bit prepared. But yeah, that's big. Hospital stays. Hospital stays vary for everyone. People can stay out of hospital. Some people are in there a lot. It can go from about 2 weeks to about a month. Different for everyone, so you're going in for IV antibiotics, lots of physio, usually going in for increased symptoms such as increased phlegm, increased fatigue, weight down, exercise tolerance down, lung function down. In a way, hospital can be a bit of a relief. You spend a lot of time fighting not to get in there, and you haven't made it, so you're there. And for me, it's a little bit of like, I can hand over a little bit of my responsibility for a while. When you can't, but it's a little, perhaps it's more like sharing your responsibility for a few weeks. There's other people that are helping you to get well. That's cool. Did anyone want to ask anything now before I move on to my do's and don'ts?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Melinda.
Hi, Melinda.
Just in regards to the hospital setting, from a personal perspective, because we're all from regional areas, and we don't have. Would you rather come into one of the major hospitals who have all the experts there and people with a lot of experience, or would you rather be closer to home with a regional hospital who may have people who have never nursed somebody with cystic fibrosis before, and
Ultimately, I would choose the best care.
Yeah.
So I would be going to a bigger hospital, but ideally you'd like to see some people trained up in regional hospitals. It would have been very difficult for me to live in the country and I wanted to do with River while she was at school, while I was going to hospital. So I think, the best answer is a mix of those two. It's training up people rurally.
Mm. And how could we better support people who came into our settings without encroaching too much? Because there's only sometimes people get so pissed off with saying the same information over and over again, and you think,
So you're talking about a respiratory patient?
For me personally, we have a young gentleman who comes in, and he only comes in every say 6 months or something, just for a course of antibiotics, which he may be in there for up to like 4 weeks or something.
Has he got CF?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, you know, you have all the different nurses and, I just wanted to know sort of how to best manage them without sort of being in their face all the time while they were in hospital, without, you know, still giving them some autonomy and some privacy without having to ask them all the time, what about this, you know?
Yeah. For me, I guess in a way I can only answer for myself. For me, I have a funny relationship. I kind of like people being in my face, but then in a way I'll get back in theirs. I actually like lots of information. I want nurses and allied health and doctors to be talking to me and sharing the information and working collaboratively. But in saying that, I've got a wealth of experience, and I'm sure this man has been living with his own condition as well. I guess what's interesting is why is he choosing not to come to a CF centre and is instead going rural. And for him, there might be really big reasons. And hopefully with advances of stuff in telehealth, things will shift. But I guess I'd encourage you to not mind getting in his face, because he might actually like to share with you the best way to care for him, which then you can disseminate amongst your colleagues. I had a really bad experience in a rural hospital once. I was pretty young, like 21. I came into hospital, I just had this massive hemoptysis. When I was young, I used to have massive hemoptysis. I was actually drunk and stoned, and I came in coughing up all this blood, going, this is really new, I've never coughed up. Like, as a teapot before, I had a teapot. I've never done that. I was so scared, and I was treated really kind of poorly, and it was like, oh, you're stoned, you're probably hallucinating. And I was like, what? No, I'm not. Oh. It was like really quite traumatic. So that was obviously unskilled, uneducated, and I just got straight. I said, can you please call my specialist? And they said, no, we're not disturbing you in the night. So I called my specialist, and they were like, get out of there. Get rural Perth. I mean, flying doctor now. So that was my one and only rural experience, which wasn't great. But I guess things like this are really important.
Yeah.
Sorry if I haven't really answered your question.
No,
I guess I don't so much know.
Because, I mean, it's hard because, I mean, like, obviously it's his choice, but, I mean, do you sort of, you don't know whether to encourage him to...
Ask him.
Yeah.
Ask him what he wants. Does he?
Well, he obviously wants to come there.
Yeah, but ask him how he likes to nurse. You know, do you want me to ask questions? Do you want me to... Are we telling you to suck eggs? You know, like you...
Yeah.
You direct us, mate.
Yeah, I mean, he does, but I mean, it's just silly constant having to do that. You could be having to do that 3 times a day with all the different nursing staff and that.
Yeah, I mean, we still have this here. We still have problems with nursing staff here.
Yeah.
And there's agency nurses that come on and give me crazy wrong drugs, and it's so scary. But that goes on all the time. The disparity between nursing standards, even in the big CF centre, is massive. It's like so different. It's really scary.
So Holly, when were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed when I was 2. I just wasn't putting on weight, and I just had constant diarrhoea, and so they diagnosed me at 2. My mum at the time was a Christian Scientist and followed a religion that kind of didn't believe in illness, so they didn't start treatment on me. I think my mum and dad argued maybe about that for about a year, so I was just taken to a lot of healers in Australia until finally they accepted it, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But it didn't go, did it? It's not that lucky.
You're saying the motivation is like a really big thing.
Yeah.
You've obviously got the motivation at the moment that
Yeah.
you're doing, and I guess it's that it's just rolling on. Do you feel like anything in your childhood, or what sort of, do you think that's your personality as well to a degree, or because you say
About being motivated?
yeah, like cystic fibrosis, you would need to have that motivation level, but obviously there's still people that are more motivated than others and
Sure.
a bit more strict, I suppose.
Sure. My motivation still comes in waves. If I'm feeling down and I'll get kind of depressed, and that'll blow out for maybe a week, then that's a week's quite a long time in CF. Things can really, the amount of bacteria in my lungs a week can really cause an exacerbation if you knock your stuff off for a week. I guess I've used fear as a motivator, though my research is that's not a great motivator. It'll get you for a while, but it's actually quite exhausting and, you know, not good long term. So I think I moved away from that. I used to use it. I think having a child has been a very good motivator. I used to always try and stay very focused on seeing my grandchildren. Yeah, I'd really like not to see them for a few years, actually.
Like, do you feel like, did you do a lot of sport or anything as a kid? Like,
Yeah, I had quite a naturally sporty dad and brother, and we did sport. No, denial was kind of the default mode in my family, which I think probably suited me well as a child, but is actually very problematic moving through my teens and adulthood. So I think it maybe set me up well, and then kind of let me down. Yeah, I think that was... I don't quite know how to get that. I know what I do now is that when I run out of my own motivation, I try and rely on someone else's. But I think I was so well when I was a child, it was really hard to compare. I used to see people who were a lot sicker and go, okay, that could be me, and, you know. I think I used to do, I went to 2 CF camps before we realised they were not good for cross-infection, which was sad. They were great, and they had a trampolining demo came out, and they picked me as someone who was great, and I went on and did state trampolining, but I nearly broke my neck and got scared and gave up. But that, I guess, paved my way into circus, and so yeah, I'd always stayed pretty sporty. Yeah, motivation, how do I stay motivated?
Do you make her do what she has to do?
She tells me to make her do it. Like, I don't want to go to the gym, tell me to go to the gym.
That's true, and then you do.
So having support people.
Yeah, having support people. Choosing like-minded. I guess when I was younger it was a bit more rock and roll. It was a bit more, I'm dying, whatever, And then I went, oh no, shit. Stay well. And I think in the last few years I've really tried to move towards more like-minded friends. Last year when they were like, oh, your liver's dodgy, I stopped drinking. Who knows when I'll start again. But that's taken its own momentum, and I've kind of enjoyed this whole straighty 180 life. And I've been hanging out more with friends who are like that. So we're doing a lot of sporting activities as friends. However, that can be problematic too, because when I'm not well and I can't do it, where's that community? And it can be embarrassing when I'm rock climbing with friends and I've got phlegm all down my throat, or maybe I just wet myself coughing. Like, it's touch and go. You want sporty friends, but what I've learnt, you also need just watching movies friends. River's good, just watching movies friends. She's not so sporty. I tried to make her really sporty. I think she peaked too young.
When did you start explaining to River about CF? Like, when did you have to go
I don't
into
really remember. Before River could talk, she used to... Since forever, yeah. I think it was that. Maybe just it was always what we lived with. The hospital here was fantastic. River used to come and just be in hospital with me, didn't she, John? She was here. Everyone knew her. It was really cute. She'd get Easter presents and Christmas presents, and it was quite inspiring, and everyone was very, very supportive. It was brilliant, actually. Before River could talk, she used to cough at people. She obviously thought coughing was talking. And the other terrible one was because when I do airway clearance, I often use empty bottles that are around the house, like juice bottles or beer bottle or whatever to spit into. So River would go around when people were around and they had their drink, and she'd just go and spit into everyone's drinks. Because that was the other thing she thought was normal. So I guess it's really hard to pinpoint. I'm sorry, I seem to be failing in all these questions because that's more, I just lived it rather than thought about it. But I guess it was just little bits all the time. Things are changing at the moment. I have to go meet the transplant team on Monday, which is heavy. Having to talk to River about that was big. That's kind of, one of the first big talks we've had recently about, what's your understanding of what's going on? Let's talk. River's a bit of a push through everything. Stop talking. So.
Seems like you guys are extremely close as well. Like, you must have quite a very close relationship.
Yeah, that's good, that's good.
Thanks for talking.
Yeah, what did someone say? If you don't yell at your kids, you're not spending enough time with them. I told you that? It's true.
Or what, has River had genetic counselling, or do you know if she's or do you want to know if she's a carrier? Or?
I'm definitely a carrier, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have to be a carrier, yeah.
But I don't have any little bits of it. They tested me for all of that stuff.
Yeah, because when when I was pregnant and they tested River's dad to see if he's a carrier, it was actually, they only tested for a few genotypes. So just last year they said, over in Melbourne, they said, what's your daughter like? I went, pretty skinny, gets a lot of stomach aches. They went, well, you know, maybe you should test her for CF because there's a whole range of new genotypes. Maybe she's got your heavy Delta 508, but she's got her dad's something less extreme. But you were always like, no, I don't have it. And she didn't. But yeah, that's something River's boyfriend was going to get tested, wasn't he? Because they're already looking down the future of children, and that's something River will have to think about and deal with. Yeah, because she has a carrier.
When you're meeting new people, when does that conversation come up? Does it just, do you play the blunt? Has it changed in your life, or?
Yeah, I think I used to maybe be way more open. And then I didn't perhaps always like all the responses. I think I became more aware of how people perceived you as I got older. And even if it might seem positive, it's still a different way of perceiving you, and they'll see CF first before they see you. People talk about it. A lot of people kind of already know through other people. That's definitely something that comes up. If it comes up in conversation, which it can, ill health, you cough. People always ask me about my cough, and usually I'll give a straight answer. I've hidden it a lot at work. I thought I've hidden it. I mean, not hidden it at all. Oh yeah, nebs and stuff, bathrooms. Also holding into your cough, running into the toilets, coughing up phlegm, running back out. Physio at lunchtime, in your car. Yeah, that's a lot of work. But it's, I mean, you can't discriminate for someone having an illness, but all the other things that come along, you kind of can. So the fact that I'm not at work because I've got CF, you can't discriminate against, but you can. The fact that my work is late, that can be lazy, unplanned, time management, poorly. So it's a difficult issue. But I think being upfront is ultimately the best thing to do. Ultimately, I would recommend everyone to do that. It's just not what I've always done. I totally recommend it.
In regards to the financial burden,
Yes.
how much help do you get?
I'm on a disability pension, which is $7.50 a fortnight. It's kind of nothing. I've been lucky enough to come from quite a wealthy family who've always supported me. And most of my life I've worked. This is the only time I haven't worked.
Does
Do you
your
get a lot of
super?
subsidies for like medications?
Yeah, most of my medications are on PBS.
Yeah.
But it's still $5 a medication, and because it's like a multi-organ
Yeah.
disease, there's so many medications. Nebs, fancy nebs, are about $1,000, aren't they?
How do you manage with like gym membership and?
CF Association will actually contribute to gym membership.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would for rural people as well. You make choices.
Does your super? Do you have to now that you've stopped working? Can you?
I'm thinking about that. You
Do
actually
that,
just
or-
get it out.
Yeah.
I'm a bit
But then you might
financially
need it.
apathetic. And I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that. Yeah, but it's not much, it's tough. There's no doubt. And if I didn't have my family, I'd be in big trouble. Yeah, really.
I'm Fiona from Denmark.
I feel it.
You mentioned that you have been discussing transplant.
Yep.
Does that mean you'll be looking at that here? Or because you said you were living in Melbourne?
Yeah, I have been living in Melbourne. Yes, they do lung transplants here at Royal Perth Hospital. They've been doing them for like 5 years. About 10. Good. Better. More experience. Yeah, people from Perth used to have to go over to Melbourne or Sydney. and wait there on the transplant list for a long time, leave their homes. Now you wait here.
And your family base is here, that's
Yeah,
why you've come back from?
That's right, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know anyone that's had?
Yeah, I know quite a few people. There's some great success stories. A lot of people with CF are young. They're also used to managing an illness and being very strict with adherence. So there's really good outcomes for a lot of people. I also know people who've died, but that's quite a while ago, really.
And would you be saying that the worst symptoms for you are your lungs, or do you have problems,
Yeah, I have problems with digestion. I have to take digestive enzymes every time I eat. If I don't, it's quite painful in your stomach and your diarrhea and everything. I take a medication for my liver as well, because that's impaired as well. What else? Yeah, it's my lungs that cause me definitely.
You said when you were growing up, your family were quite naive, or they didn't want to deal with it. Are you finding now, as your disease has progressed, that they've had to come to terms with it, or was it
I'm hoping that the recent changes, like no. Don't look at this. No, not at all. Not at all. I think that part of, I seem so well. I am well a lot of the time. It's easy to ignore when I'm not well, because being sick happens slowly. Just my family being who they are, as kind of ignorers. I'm really hoping things will change. We've just had a family meeting where one of the CF team has been, come on Ollie's family, let's all get behind it. So I'm actually really hoping things will change. Yeah.
Because you'll need a lot of support if you're on the
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah, even now, I mean, I just get really, really, really tired. So even those basic things like meals dropped over, that stuff really helps. And it's hard also not to feel like a bit of a scammer, because then what am I doing next week? I'm in Thailand climbing rocks. But then the next week I'm not. I need a lot of help. So, yeah.
So does the weather affects a lot?
Yeah, from what I've seen of my friends and stuff, it's really different for everyone. For me, I'm not very good in humid climates. I find that's not so good. I find wet not good, I like cold. Perth probably is what I found to be the absolute best climate for me. Mostly dry, mostly warm. Pollution I find really hard as well. My lungs have become really quite reactive. They didn't used to be so much. But if I slack off around passive smoking, even for a night, and I don't mean like sit right next to someone smoking, I mean actually just be a little bit around cigarette smokes, my airways will be so tight, I won't really be able to do airway clearance probably for a few days. Yeah. So yeah, so air pollution I found really big, and climate. But other people move up to the Gold Coast and they've never been weller. It's really quite specific to individuals.
Yeah, it's a lot of debate about weather, isn't there?
Yeah.
I know with our families, some prefer the cold and some people like Karratha.
It's a bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I became so sick when I was in Melbourne last year, it was all like, Melbourne must be bad. And I'd be saying that to the Melbourne team. So cold, so wet, so much pollution, so many people, so many viruses. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, we have people here who are so well. Like, it's obviously not that. But the other thing was also, actually we may discover that because we have such a small pool and we're only recently living long, we don't have the studies about it. I remember Jerry Ryan, my specialist here, going, you're probably right, Holly, but we don't have the research, but we'll know in 10 years. Stuff like that. Yeah. Okay.
Holly.
Yes, Joe.
When you're in hospital, do you see that you're a different sort of patient to the other patients in the hospital?
As into other CFs or other people?
Other people, other
Medical
with other
conditions.
conditions.
Yeah, I'm certainly, me and other people with CF are generally up more. We're on treadmills, we're leaving to go to work. yeah, there's absolutely difference that I see as well. And one of the problems with that is that people can tend to think you're such an old hand at hospital, and maybe you don't get, from some of the nursing staff, you might not actually get as much care and nursing attention as you need, because it's, oh, you look well, you must be well. And I may be wrong, but we may get a lot more of the newer staff or the agency staff. I actually think potentially the more time you actually do spend in hospital, it also means the more painful experiences you're going to go through, the more mistakes you're going to see, and the more trauma you're going to build up. This is me, I'm getting quite traumatised. So I actually think you may, in many ways, need more care. It's just different care. I think that's really important.
So a lot more supportive.
Yeah, yeah. Because, I mean, I've got, often, you know, you come in and you're still having tests, you're having your, maybe you're having your kidneys and your livers test all the time. They could all be bad. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. And the more time you're in hospital, like, okay, so the general model is people get sick, they come in, everyone knows how to act, they fix them up, they leave. To keep coming back into hospital, in a way, to maintain your outside life can get harder and harder. You can't keep leaving work and expect to go back and it'll be okay. Your family and your friends become tired of always visiting you in hospital, and there's this, oh, you'll be in next time. I think for me it gets almost harder in a way. Hospital. You become used to it, but... And because your health is declining, you're actually playing with quite big stakes in a way. You're wrestling with huge concepts all the time. Can I answer that, John?
Pretty well. I think the difference, and some nurses find it a little frustrating, is that these people are young and more impulsive and will go in and out of hospital and treat it like a hotel and not be getting better is one way of seeing it, but that's them, and you need to accept them like that, and they'll bring in a lot of stuff that there's individual about them, turn their bed around a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always going, oh my God, are you here for a year? When they look at all my stuff, and it's like, no, but I'm here for 2.5 weeks. You actually do need quite a lot of stuff, and really, like, hospitals need to be like IKEA. There's no storage. Like, shit does go everywhere. Like, and you've got a TV and a fridge and a treadmill. Yeah, you get a lot of nurses coming in and where. It's like, come on, it's a small space. I think that coming in and out stuff is imperative and should be looked on as success, and as actually that your patient is succeeding and thriving. I know when I'm at my least well and my least mentally well, I'm institutionalised within a day. I'm there, I'm not leaving. I'm in my bed, I'm watching TV, world's too hard. It's when I'm leaving, it's when I'm ringing going, I'm now late for drugs because I had to give a presentation at work, is actually when I'm my wellest. So I mean, there's a balance, you know, like, your care's got to happen and drugs actually need to happen on time. I think sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating when, as the patient, you might get a bit, where have you been, you're late for your drugs, and then the next dose, the nursing staff are 2 hours late. You're like, come on, man, let's both be flexible. In saying that, though, I'm really quite rigid. So. Yeah, I see that as a good thing, and that's why there should be free parking for patients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Regarding, did you suffer like really depressed state? Like you had to seek consult for special?
I haven't had much counselling in my life. I actually don't think that's a good thing. I actually think I should have. I think that should have been always part of my care, to maintain myself in good mental health, because, yeah, I think that's really important. So I think that's something that I've lacked and my team has lacked. We haven't got that right, definitely. When I was over in Melbourne for the last 1.5 years, they have a psychologist who's part of the team, and I'd see him. But that's a bit problematic as well, because I'd see him while I was in an admission, when you're already feeling pretty crap and you're talking about heavy issues, and it would often actually leave me off worse. I have periods of getting really down, absolutely. I think that's something that more that I want to look at and actually try to grab a hold of, especially as I'm moving into transplant and stuff, and a lot of anxiety around that, and so, yeah, that's something I have to do.
Can I just ask one question of River? I know you might not answer this, but who do you go to dump all your stuff onto?
My boyfriend. That's pretty much it. I talk to Mum about most things.
Yeah, who do you talk about me to? Your boyfriend?
Yeah.
That's good.
Was it school friends before that?
Not really. I don't think anyone could really understand, so there wasn't much point.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, does the organisation have
Well, we do
family and
we do camps for siblings, but also kids that have parents with CF can come along too. But probably you're probably too old. But we have had kids whose parents have CF come along. So.
And River could access counselling if she wanted to, of course.
Yeah, and if she wanted to meet anyone else who has a parent with CF or read anything, we've got different things.
Have you met anyone?
No, I've never met another child with someone with CF.
Ah.
Have I? Without meaning to?
I don't think so.
Wow, we can change that if you like.
Except most of them would be they're like little.
We'd have to have a think about it. But there's a few kids out there. You could be more helpful to them.
Yeah, it's true. It's like young carer group things.
Yeah, there is. Carers WA. Yeah.
Carer? That'd be great.
Can I ask a nasty P word, especially for the do's and don'ts for the physios?
Oh yeah.
Because you must come across some that you think, oh my god.
Yeah.
That you really learn to relate to?
With physios? Yeah, a good thing to physios, sounds so simple, but please don't talk to us when we're trying to do airway clearance. Chat, chat, chat. That means that we can't do it. So basic.
Like when you go to the dentist.
Yeah, just like having a talk. Maybe same as when we're on the treadmill and stuff, but perhaps you're talking to us then to measure our breathlessness, and that's strategic. But I find that hard. Like I know that I'll run with physio, and just the mere act of being observed and on an oximeter, I can't get into a run and I'm exhausted after 10 minutes, but then she'll leave and I can run for half an hour. Mix it up. Physio is boring, boring, boring. We've been doing it forever. Oh my God, it's so boring and time consuming. Obviously some people are okay with that and they like routine. I find it dull as. So mix it up. Come, make us go for a run.
I don't think anyone's okay with that. I think everyone thinks
Yeah.
there's some variety it has to happen. Yeah.
Jamie's really good here. He's got so many techniques and he gives me a new one every 2 months or something. Try and be creative. People, you can do physio in a car. Like you can do all sorts of things.
Not driving.
Driving is a great time to do it. You tell you do diaphragmatic breathing, breath holding and huffing while you're driving.
I'm thinking nebulizer.
Well, actually, when I was doing I did my social, yeah, I used to do that all the time. I did my social work prac in the Seychelles when I was very worried about getting sick over there. I was so full on about my nebs, and I actually had this neb John gave me from the CF Association that I plugged into my car. And I'd do my antibiotic nebs because they're the last thing to do in my regime on the way to work and dropping River to school, and people would look at me like, why is your car full of smoke? And then on the way home I'd have like my bronchodilator and my hypertonic, and it actually, because finding time's hard. Yeah, that's what I did. Do's and don'ts of physios. Some physio really annoyed me the other day when I was asking about cross-infection in the gym in Melbourne where everyone goes.
No, I mean in general, anyway.
Oh no, but I'm just going to tell this, that's where I was.
Yeah.
And I was like, really, how well do you clean it? He's like, we do our best. I'm like, well, I coughed up phlegm here when I was running the other day, and it took me 15 minutes to find it because it just sprayed out of my mouth. I said, really, how clean is it? He said, well, we can't wrap you all up in a bubble. It was a terrible comment. I was like, well, there's a big difference between all sharing a gym where we cough and being wrapped in a bubble. Like, come on. So there's just little comments like that that just seem to sit and don't go away. For me, anyway. I hold on to things.
It's so interesting because that would have just been a throwaway comment.
Would have been a totally throwaway comment. Here's another comment I've heard a lot from nurses, which is weird. Don't ever say it. Oh, you're so lucky to be skinny. I wish I had CF and could eat whatever I wanted. Oh. It's so weird. And it undermines everything because you go, oh, not only are you weird, you also seem really ignorant, and now I have to trust you to, while I'm asleep, access my catheters and stuff because it's scary. Right? Yeah, people say some very dumb things. Another one that I used to hear a lot in hospital and I don't hear anymore, which used to really upset me, was, so you'd come for an admission and you'd hear, what have you done to yourself this time to get in here? And you'd be like, well, actually I've done everything I could possibly do not to get in here, and I obviously haven't succeeded, so actually I feel pretty crap. So, back off. That's another really full-on statement. Oh, another big do and don't is, please be brave with sputum. So many staffs will gag at our sputum pots. You go, can you clear the sputum out of my room? Oh, so no one seems to clear the sputum out of your room. You'll have days because everyone just wants to avoid it or they don't see it. And people will go, okay, freak out, put their gloves on, get their bags, make a big deal out of it. Like, I don't think that's okay. With CF, a lot of our stuff is pretty gross. Like our bowels are gross, our phlegm is gross. We may have incontinent problems, and we have to deal with that ourselves all day. Coughing up phlegm at work, on the street, when we're having sex. Like, just, so you got us for 2 weeks, just deal with it. That's a really big thing. I think that's not, it makes you feel quite bad. It makes me feel bad.
Do you have any, like, when you are exercising, or like, one of the things I keep thinking was pool, like when you're in a pool.
Yeah, pool's really hard, because where do you put your phlegm?
Yeah.
Pool's really hard.
And wouldn't the chlorine irritate you to make you cough as well?
Yeah, it does me. But also in saying that, when I swim a lot, my lungs are pretty good. The ocean's good because you just spit in it. Sometimes I keep a bottle when I do laps at the end of the pool. Spit, it's pretty hard.
Like
it's difficult. Yeah, like a Mount Franklin bottle. Or if you put in a stubby holder, you can't actually see.
Yeah.
And I do that at the gym as well. I've been, like, you know, approached at the gym, a couple of gyms, about, are you sick, have you got an infection? I just went, I don't know why, I just didn't tell the truth, because the truth was valid enough. But I said, no, I'm actually state water skier, and I've just had a lung injury, and this is my rehab. And they just backed right off. I think I was scared if I said I've got CF, they'd go, well then you need a doctor's letter and rah rah rah. But for some reason I thought, I want to actually work, no one. But it was weird. I remember going home and my partner going, really the truth is enough. It's enough.
Is it because you feel most people don't understand what cystic fibrosis is?
Yeah, and I guess there's that, yeah, and then there'll be that fear that maybe something will go wrong, like you'll have an attack or a stroke, or, so, you know, you often have to tick boxes. Do you have health conditions? And I should just go no, because I think if you're going to make me see a doctor, sign a letter, I can't be bothered. Yeah.
So what about community gyms as far as
I often will just wipe down equipment before, wipe down equipment after, take my own mats if I'm doing Pilates or something like that, wash my hands after. Yeah. Yeah, it can be, yeah. I try and do airway clearance and stuff before I go to the gym so I cough less. And I like the gyms where I stand right at the back with the speakers really loud, stuff like that. Some gyms dim the lights. I like those gyms. In Melbourne, I used to go to the bikie gym. I think it was really some dodgy money laundering thing. It was weird. There was never anyone in there. That's why I went. There's never anyone in there, so I could just run and cough. But yeah, other gyms you've got to be more subtle.
How do you do fine?
Fine. Yeah. Oh, no, not fine. usually kind of dehydrated and worn out for a couple of days after. While I'm actually fine, I'm kind of okay. Drink a lot of water. Oh yeah, that can be bad. Yeah, people look at you like, you've got the flu, get away. But I'm looking at them coughing, like, get away too. Everyone's glaring at everyone. Yeah, it's awful actually.
Well,
Yes.
Have you got any stories about intravenous access?
Yeah, I've had lots of problems with intravenous access, and that's absolutely one of my do's and don'ts is, please, have you guys all seen infuser pods? Okay, so please, yeah? Cool. Oh, do you want to see one? Okay, I'll show you. This is new, I've only had this for a year. I put off having this forever because I didn't always want to be a patient. You have to get them flushed every 6 weeks. It's there, it's kind of creepy. And then you get that tube going up there. And so then with for IV antibiotics, it's just a tube in there that stays. Yeah, I've always had real problems with IV access, which I think John was alluding to. So I've had lots of long lines, and then they all kind of caved in, and then CVCs, and then that became too problematic. I've always had to be totally sedated. The CVCs I always found so traumatic, like lie down, put a thing over your head, now we're injecting your neck. I'd be like, no, give me sedation. And finally, it took years, but that became they knew that. They dosed me up before I went down, dosed me up after. Yeah, really problematic. So you please treat these like absolute gold. For one of these to get a bacterial infection, to have to then be removed and another one put in while I was already sick in hospital, my lung function was already compromised. It's really not good. My decline in health in Melbourne may have been because I got a virus, but I also, at the same time, I got this put in. I don't know, it's probably not related, but in my mind, possibly related. You don't want to be having, please look after our lines. Like scrub. There's a massive disparity that I see between nursing staff in using Alco wipes. People will just rub an Alco wipe over the end of your injection site. I mean, what are they called? Posiflow? You know what I mean? The rubber bung. People just go and straight in with the needle. It's not enough. You need to be scrubbing. 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Let it air dry. That's a huge thing. And when I talk to nurses about it, a lot of them don't even kind of really know. And I think, for me, that 30 seconds scrubbing, 20 seconds air drying, it's a long time in nursing minutes to just do something for like 50 seconds. And it's quite intimate. You're up close. Can even be awkward, and I think people rush through that. But I think it's really important to just be so onto it about that. And also, because you need to be teaching the patient as well, because we go home and do our own IVs. And we get taught, like our home care stuff says scrub for 30 seconds, air dry. So we need to be reinforced to us that that's important. So that's something I'd be really aware as well. So treat these like gold, and all our lines like gold, yeah. What else? Am I going on too long?
Have you had to worry about losing too much weight?
Yeah, I've really struggled. I've always maintained about 53.5 kilos. And the last year, while I've been unwell, I've been down to about 50 kilos and I've had no appetite for the first time in my life. It's been actually really hard. It's kind of hard to conceptualise how quickly you lose weight and how much, if I take the pressure off eating for 2 days, I'll just drop weight so quickly. So I've been using a lot of those resource drinks. That's been really helping me. But yeah, I find maintaining weight quite hard. Yeah.
So you have to have time in your day also to continue to eat.
Yeah.
That whole regime.
Yeah, and chop and cook and yeah. Yeah, that has been hard. That's enough.
Is it hard for you not to put on weight, River?
Yeah, we are a small build family. I think it's something also, it's good to remember that not everyone needs to have that conversation with the patient. Just recently I had a doctor I'd met for 2 weeks trying to have the transplant conversation with me, and I just thought that was incredibly inappropriate. I think it's really need to be choosing who's having your conversations with your patients. Like maybe there's one with that guy you're talking about, maybe there's 1 or 2 people that would be really having the big talks with you rather than everyone, and maybe try and protect your patients a bit from students. Obviously, I'm aware here this is a teaching hospital. I understand how medicine works and people have to be taught, but I mean the amount of students that have come to my room going, quick, I've got to do an exam, show me your finger clubbing and your hunchy back. It's awful. And you're like, get out. Get out. But it also takes a lot of courage to be that patient that goes, get out. Like you don't want to put your team offside, your nursing staff offside. Like they're actually working hard to help you. So you walk a very fine line between advocating for yourself but also trying not to, you're talking to trained professional people going, have you washed your hands? It's actually a hard conversation on that matter. My answer to the hand washing thing, because that's something that I care passionately about, because we all know that infections get passed in hospitals, and that's something that's drummed into us as CF patients a lot. So, of course, it's our right and our responsibility to ask all staff if they've washed their hands, but it's really hard, and there's no way you could practically do that to the 50 people I see every day. Also, people come in while I'm asleep. Also, people are in and touching me while I'm having a nap and I haven't even had time to talk. Usually when I ask someone if they've washed their hand, if they don't look too scary, I mean, if someone's scary, it's hard to ask anything. They'll say, yeah, I just washed it outside. Is that true? A lot of the time they're carrying a kidney dish of antibiotics. So, it's not true. They couldn't have walked from a treatment room, put that under their arm, then washed that. Like, that didn't happen. And that gets really difficult, because how can a patient go, no, you didn't? Like, it's difficult. I think my way around that is if staff are washing their hands in front of patients, that takes all that pressure off the patient having to ask, having to set up very uncomfortable dynamics where you've questioned their professionality, and the patient can feel more safe. And then you also know who hasn't washed their hands, so you can maybe ask 3 people a day instead of 50. The way I look at hospital care, here's my metaphor of a trifle. So, and I as a patient, I'm the base, and you want all the checks and balances to get through so the right kind of medication gets down to me. Say the doctor writes something illegible or wrong. That's, a mistake getting through that layer. And then the pharmacist sends up an expired dose and something gets through. Then something goes wrong at nursing care and the wrong dose, drug, administration route gets through. It's me at the very bottom who's going to stop that wrong drug getting into me. So I really think use your patience. So that's the thing, if you wash your hands in front of them, you're using that last line of defence of getting things wrong. Your patient, I love it when a nurse brings in a kidney dish with antibiotics and the vials are there. So I know what drugs I'm getting. I love it when a nurse goes, okay, I'm counting out your morning meds. Do these all look like what you usually take? Because things go wrong, not infrequently. I've had a lot of wrong drugs, and some I've caught, some I haven't. So I really encourage you guys to use your patients like that, which is also about talking ad nauseum. Oh, and my other really important one is try and be very impeccable with your nursing charts and things like that. It seems like, and your notes, even little things have kind of big knock-on effects. For example, just recently in hospital, I was taking a drug that I was allergic to, but I had to, and it made me very, very sick. One of the nursing staff hadn't written down when I'd had Panadol, so I wasn't able to have any more Panadol. And I was like a 39-degree fever, whole body I was in so much pain, but just from that little, not writing that down, I couldn't get any pain relief. And another one was having to have tests, which I needed to fast for, but it hadn't been passed on to tell me to fast. So instead of missing 2 days of work, it blew out to missing 3 days of work. So those tiny little things actually end up having massive effects on your patient whose whole world is condensed into hospital and you're trying to maintain your outside life. It's very hard. Yeah, and I suppose the other important thing to remember is that we really appreciate you guys. We wouldn't probably be alive, like we really do. Thank you. That's the end.
Thank you.